Today I'm going to talk to you about the scholarly genius. And these were basically scholars who came to this part of the world, to Southeast Asia, to spread Islam. Now, the traders were the first to come to this part of the world, and that is very clear from historical records. And we know when the traders came, Sufis, missionaries, and other ulama or scholars came with them. When the scholars came to this part of the world, they were again very struck by the fact that the Malays had very high intellectual capabilities. Some scholars in the past used to say that it was only with the coming of Islam that Malays became intellectuals or thinkers. I personally disagree. Malays were very highly scholarly, and they had many seminaries and also institutions that taught about ideas of Buddhism and Hinduism. So when the Muslim scholars came to this part of the world, they realized that Malays had a strong foundation of not only scientific thought but also philosophy. Hinduism and Buddhism developed in the Malay mind, especially amongst the learned, the art of questioning and critical thinking, and more importantly, the art of prose writing, and also the development of different sorts of literatures. So how then did these ulama spread Islam to this part of the world? Realizing that the Malays already had a high level of thinking and would find it very difficult to reconcile this with Islam that was bringing in another new form of thinking, the scholarly genius introduced in the Malay world a new vocabulary and a form of writing. And this is one way in which they spread Islam. They introduced new words into the Malay world, and these words were introduced through a writing script that was called Jawi. Now, even the word Jawi was a word that they took from Jawa. Jawa becomes Jawi because Malays or Javanese or people in the Malay world could identify themselves. So Jawi, a form of writing, was taken from the Arabic script, and together with the script that they took from the Arabic language, they added in more letters to reflect how Malays pronounced. In the Arabic language, there's no such thing as pinggan, there's no such thing as cawan, and there's no such thing as ngeri. So what the scholarly genius did was to put in extra letters to ensure that Malay words could be expressed in the Jawi script. By reading this Jawi script, Malays then could read the Quran more easily. What they did was basically to make the Arabic language easy to be read and remembered, so that the transition between the Malay language to the Arabic language became seamless. The command of language will turn into the language of command. Once the Malays had already understood how their language could be read by using the Arabic script, which is the Jawi script, it influenced the whole way of thinking. And what the scholarly genius did was to incorporate Arabic without removing the language that was there. So Arabic was introduced into the Malay language, while Sanskrit as well as Old Malay was maintained. For example, saya mencari ilmu, which means in English, I am looking for knowledge. Saya is from Sanskrit, mencari is from Old Malay, and ilmu is from Arabic. And this was how the scholarly genius basically changed the minds of the Malays. By slowly infusing the Arabic language, they then turned the Malay world and the rest of Southeast Asia into a hub of Islamic learning. Scholars that were steeped and acquainted with many languages could produce all sorts of literatures that incorporated the traditions from different parts of the world. We know of names such as Hamzah Al-Suri, Samsuddin Al-Sumatrani, Nuruddin Al-Niri, Abdul Rahul Singkal, Abdul Samad Al-Palingbangi, and Ismail Al-Minangkabawi. Their names all reflected the places in which they came from. And the most major amongst all of these scholars was Sheikh Yusop Al-Makassari, whom in his name basically referred to the place called Makassar, who fought the Dutch and was exiled all the way to South Africa, and in South Africa, him and his followers spread Islam. Islam basically came from the Malay world to South Africa through the work of this scholarly genius. More importantly, the scholarly genius basically introduced many concepts from Arabic into the Malay language that showed how the Malays now developed a new way of thinking about the world. In the Malay language, you have words such as abjad, ahli, ahad, askar, akal, dakwah, dunia, halal and haram, huruf, ilmu, jawab, kamus, keramat, kurban, bakmal, masjid, muflis, if you are not spending your money properly, miskin, kulub, roh, and salamah, which becomes selamat. All of these terms, and more than probably hundreds and hundreds of terms from the Arabic language, was incorporated into the Malay language, such that now the Malays could put themselves within a bigger civilization that was an Arab-Persian Islamic civilization, and became people who in the end contributed to Islamic learning across the Muslim world, and especially so in Southeast Asia. The scholarly genius basically turned the Malays into a better thinking group of people whom not only become part of the Muslim Ummah, but also enhance the learning of people within that Ummah.